When Secret of the Mimic came out, all of us were scrambling to figure out exactly what Edwin Murray invented instead of William and Henry. And nearly a year later, I think we've settled on what he did and didn't invent. Well, almost. Because there's something that isn't even confirmed to exist in the games that Edwin Murray may have invented. The exact same thing that Vanny uses to conceal herself and Security Breach. I'm not kidding. Slices, put on your aprons and let's bake ourselves a theory. So let's reel it back for a moment. Am I talking about illusion discs? Kind of, but why the hell would Edwin have invented an illusion disc? When would he have done it? Isn't he dead? Frankly, before the Silhouette update, I would have agreed with you that Edwin Murray is most likely dead. But as I covered in this video, which you can go watch and probably should, Steel Wool silently added something crazy in a recent patch of Secret of the Mimic. It was an otherwise normal patch, but for no reason, and without saying so in the update, they added this human-shaped silhouette that moves back and forth in the window of the Digityper office when looking through the security office on the other side of the warehouse. Yeah, it's that weirdly specific, and it only appears at the very beginning and very end of the game. So it can't be the Digityper, and it likely can't be M2, because it would have to go from there to the van. I explained this in the video. Realistically, the only options for this silhouette are a brand new character or Edwin Murray. But something that I pointed out in that video is if Edwin did survive the attack at his office and he's somehow snooping around the facility, he would have to avoid M2 and M1. M2 is something that is able to find us within our first hour of the factory, and M1 is so attached to the security system that the only time she mentions losing contact with us is when we leave the building during the Big Top fight. So how is he able to avoid this killer sleuth and the security system of the factory? Frankly, in that video, I left it at that there's no good explanation for that, but Edwin might have survived. But later, I got an anonymous email to the Freddy Fazbear Pizza podcast, the weekly podcast I have on this very channel. And it read, if we assume Edwin is still around at MCM during Secret of the Mimic, is it possible that he coded some way to make himself invisible to the machines inside, similar to how Vanny is invisible to Freddy in Security Breach? At the moment, I'm Edwin agnostic, but the biggest problem at the moment is how M1 could not know that Edwin is in the facility. Given that Glamrock Freddy is made of mimic coding, it stands to reason that a similar tactic could work with the original mimics. I talked about that briefly on the podcast. I thought it's really interesting and worth bringing up. But I thought about it more recently, and if he coded himself to be invisible to M1 and M2 with some device, there is only one thing in all of Five Nights at Freddy's we know capable of doing something like that: Charlotte Emily's earpieces from the Silver Eyes novels. So is that why I think Edwin has illusion discs? Before I even get into any of this, we need to go over what Charlie's earpieces are and how they may or may not even relate to illusion discs. That's fucking right, it's a Gamersupps Christmas sale! You get a free gift with every Gamersupps tub purchase for the next week or so. It's on the picture. You can see all the information. Code RATOAST for 10% off your entire order. But also, look at all this shit! And there's a new creator flavor, Blue Screen Babe. Ah, that sounds good. I don't know. By Gamersupps. It's good shit. Back to the video. So in the second novel, The Twisted Ones, Charlotte Emily is working on a project where she has these two robot heads that talk to each other. And to enter that conversation, you need to put an earpiece on for them to even register that you exist. In the third novel, after they've learned about illusion discs and all of this, one of the characters has the idea for Charlotte to rewire the earpiece to instead appear invisible to an animatronic. And she's able to do that. She's able to make an earpiece that essentially makes you completely invisible to any animatronic. Now, a lot of people, myself included, had been mistakenly attributing this to an illusion disc, or at least that she used illusion discs to accomplish this. But I did look back through the book. Maybe I'm mistaken, maybe I'm just missing something, but I can't find any direct link between illusion discs and these earpieces, just that they're happening at the same time. Maybe they get combined at some point and I couldn't find it in my quick reread. Let me know. But even if they're not directly connected in the books, I think for good reason, many of us think they are connected or even are the same same piece of technology in the games. Because in the books, an illusion disc works by overloading the human mind, having you fill in what you think should be there, and it's used to make mannequins look fleshy and monstrous, or make Circus Baby look human. But when they do this, they emit a very loud and piercing frequency, and also make you appear fuzzy or glitchy on cameras. And the thing is, all of that, plus all of the earpiece stuff, happens to Vanny in Security Breach all at the same time. In Security Breach, it is established and re-established over and over that Glamrock Freddy cannot see Vanny. It's one of the first things we hear about in the game.
What was that?
That is a fountain. A fountain is a decorative reservoir used for discharging water.
Not the fountain. You didn't see the dancing rabbit lady right in front of us?
No, I did not. There is no rabbit at the Mega Pizzaplex. Not anymore.
And it's mentioned in one of the endings. They want you to know that without Roxy's eyes, Glamrock Freddy cannot see Vanessa, or specifically Vanny. And whenever we get nearby Vanny, a ringing noise appears and she's hard to look at. Not to mention in one of the therapy CDs, it's mentioned that there's a hard to make out rabbit-looking figure in one of the security cameras. So a lot of people have assumed that Vanny's using some sort of game version of an illusion disc, one that makes her hard to see on camera, hard to see in person, and invisible to the animatronics. And the tricky thing is, this is combining information about illusion discs and Charlie's earpieces. So it feels like the games have some sort of technology that's kind of both of them in one. And Vanny seems to have her hands on one. So the question is, where did she get it? Either she made it herself, which I guess is possible, but as far as I'm aware, there's never direct mention of Vanny being an inventor. She may be able to code video games, but that's kind of a far jump between that and never before seen robotic technology. So maybe she obtained it. But then where would Vanny have gotten this very rare, very never before heard of technology? Well, she does have access to a workshop underneath the Pizzaplex, the Murray's Costume Manor secret underground pizzeria. So like I said, people have been suspecting for a long time that Vanny is using some sort of illusion disc adjacent technology to navigate the Pizzaplex, doing this so that normal people and animatronics can't see or interrupt her while she's doing what she needs to. But there was never a great explanation for how. She just could. Even Afton invented it and we didn't know until now isn't a great explanation. It feels more like a cop-out answer. When would we have heard about this before? Why does she have one now? Things like that. We know for a fact that Vanessa was working in this underground pizzeria to either revive Afton or do some weird nonsense, who knows what. But Vanny's down there, the exact same location where Edwin Murray was also working. And if Edwin Murray was working throughout the facility and trying to avoid M1 and M2, he would have needed to invent some sort of device that's doing exactly what Vanny's device does. So the idea that he invented some piece of technology that allowed him to be invisible to robots with the mimic coding inside of it lines up pretty perfectly. And if that's true, then many years down the line, Vanny would have access to that same technology since she's wandering those same halls. This not only is completely logical, but it helps us answer one of the weirdest parts about Security Breach: why can't Freddy see Vanny? So, what do you think? I think this is pretty solid. Again, this is one of those theories where there isn't that much evidence for, but logically it all lines up really well. And it gives us another strong connection between the games and one of its associated media, the books. But in the meantime, if you want to hear about how the games connect to a different series of media, the movies, I made a video about that last week, which you can find right here. If you want your fan art featured on the channel, make sure to share with hashtag ToastArt. A huge thank you to the best channel members, the Dough Risers, and until next time, as always, stay toasty, slices.